Hey everybody! Today we're going to be reading chapter 3 of 1 Samuel, and after I get done reading scripture, I'm going to explain what I think about it, how I feel about it, and I'm not an expert in scripture at all, so please do not lean on my understanding, but trust in the Lord for understanding and for guidance. And if I mispronounce any names, places, people, words, anything like that, I do apologize. And as you can see, I'm reading from my Bible. It's the New Living Translation for those who want to follow along. And without further ado, let's get started. Meanwhile, the boy Samuel served the Lord by assisting Eli. Now in those days, messages from the Lord were very rare and visions were quite uncommon. One night, Eli, who was almost blind by now, had gone to bed. The lamp of God had not yet gone out, and Samuel was sleeping in the tabernacle, near the ark of God. Suddenly the Lord called out, "Samuel." "Yes," Samuel replied. "What is it?" He got up and ran to Eli. "Here I am. Did you call me?" "I didn't call you," Eli replied. "Go back to bed." So he did. Then the Lord called out again, "Samuel." Again, Samuel got up and went to Eli. "Here I am. Did you call me?" "I didn't call you, my son," Eli said. "Go back to bed." Samuel did not yet know the Lord because he had never had a message from the Lord before. So the Lord called a third time, and once more Samuel got up and went to Eli. "Here I am. Did you call me?" Then Eli realized it was the Lord who was calling the boy. So he said to Samuel, "Go and lie down again. If someone calls again, say, 'Speak, Lord, your servant is listening.'" So Samuel went back to bed, and the Lord came and called as before, "Samuel, Samuel." And Samuel replied, "Speak, your servant is listening." Then the Lord said to Samuel, "I am about to do a shocking thing in Israel. I am going to carry out all my threats against Eli and his family, from beginning to end. I have warned him that judgment is coming upon his family forever, because his sons are blaspheming God, and he hasn't disciplined them. So I have vowed that the sins of Eli and his sons will never be forgiven by sacrifices or offerings." Samuel stayed in bed until morning, then got up and opened the door of the tabernacle as usual. He was afraid to tell Eli what the Lord had said to him, but Eli called out to him, "Samuel, my son." "Here I am," Samuel replied. "What did the Lord say to you? Tell me everything, and may God strike you and even kill you if you hide anything from me." So Samuel told Eli everything. He didn't hold anything back. "It is the Lord's will," Eli replied. "Let him do what he thinks best." As Samuel grew up, the Lord was with him, and everything Samuel said proved to be reliable. And all Israel, from Dan in the north to Beersheba in the south, knew that Samuel was confirmed as a prophet of the Lord. The Lord continued to appear at Shiloh and gave messages to Samuel there at the tabernacle. And Samuel's words went out to all the people of Israel. Thus ends the reading of chapter 3 of 1 Samuel. So, I knew that Eli was a man of God. I knew he was. But I knew there was a reason why I felt like it was wrong for Eli not to discipline his sons when he knew that his sons was doing wicked stuff, was doing wicked things in the Lord's sight. I've always felt like if someone was blatantly like blaspheming against the Lord or saying some wicked stuff or whatever against the Lord, you know, or doing wicked things against the Lord, that it would be wrong for us Christians to not speak up and say something. Because if we just don't say anything and just tolerate it, then it's like we're agreeing with it. It's like we're saying it's okay, and it's not okay. It's like we're supposed to call out, people's, sins and stuff, you know. Um, in all honesty, it reminds me of like whenever my family members would curse, or whenever they would, like try and make a joke about the Lord or whatever. And I would let them know that, you ain't supposed to be cursing like that. That joke wasn't funny, like don't be joking against the Lord like that, or, it's like I would correct them on their behavior. Um, it actually it got to the point, in all honesty, where like now when I come around my family members, I don't even need to say it anymore, because they already know. Like if they do too much cussing or whatever, they'll apologize and everything and be talking about how, they don't need to be cussing and stuff like that. They try not to, like disrespect my religion, or my beliefs or anything like that. They try not to show no disrespect towards the Lord. It's like they act a certain way around me because they already know how I feel. You know, um, it's like they remember the things that I corrected them on, and they try their best not to do such things when I'm around them. You know, and I really do appreciate that. In all honesty, I feel like it's the Lord working on my family. Um, and it reminds me of it just reminds me of basically like how Eli, he should have been doing that with his sons. Like you're a whole priest for the Lord. If your sons are doing what's wicked in the Lord's sight and they supposed to be priests, and you know that they're doing wicked things, you should discipline them. You should reprimand them for that. You should not be sitting there and letting such evil stand. You know? Like, why would you allow that? You know? Sometimes, I don't know, like sometimes when like messed up stuff happens to me or whatever, if it's not if it's not something that's like a sin or a wicked thing or whatever against the Lord, then I'll let it slide. Because like people do messed up stuff all the time, and it's like you gotta pick your battles. Like, I'm trying to think of some sins or whatever that I would actually address with somebody if they were doing it. Oh, I remember. Y'all know that movie called Wicked and everything that came out and stuff. You know about the Wicked Witch and stuff like that. Yeah, I tried to tell a family member and everything that there is no such thing as good witches. All witches is bad, and the Lord don't like witchcraft. He hates that stuff. And it's clearly in the Bible. That's like one of the things that the Lord specifically says that he don't like, along with homosexuality and other stuff, you know. But but it's like my family member just felt like they just it's like they wouldn't accept the fact that there was they wouldn't accept the fact that witchcraft was bad, and that um and that the Lord don't like it. And it was almost like they didn't care. It's like they even went so far as to like get some merchandise or whatever that had witches or whatever on it. And like I'm looking like, well, I tried to warn you. Like I saw you doing something that the Lord don't like, and or supporting something or whatever that the Lord don't like, and I tried to tell you about it, and you didn't care. You know. Um. Another thing is like the gluttony thing. Lots of people struggle with gluttony. And if I see that you're doing gluttonous behavior, then I'm going to address that. I'm going to say something. Like, you don't need to eat that much, just eat enough just to be satisfied. And then if you want to eat the rest later for dinner or something like that, then you can. But you don't need to sit there and eat until you full and stuffed and miserable and everything. Like, you don't need to be gluttonous like that, you know? Like, if I see you purposefully, ruining your temple, ruining your body and stuff and everything, like, I will, talk to you about that. Like, hey, you need to do what you need to do in order to, get your health together, like, you need to work on your health. Like if there's anything that's blatantly something, that you're doing against the Lord or whatever, then I'll address it. But it's certain things that I'm not gonna address. Like if you doing any mistreatment towards me personally or whatever, then all depending on what it is, I might let it slide, because I know how to pick my battles. But if you doing anything that's blatant disrespect or wicked or whatever towards the Lord, then I'm gonna have to say something, because I'm not gonna let such disrespect towards my Lord stand. But yeah, basically, I knew that Eli should have disciplined his sons. I felt that way when I read it, and now this is just confirmation, that I was right. Like, his sons was doing wicked stuff, should have been disciplined. Should have been disciplined. That way, at least, when the Lord did give his punishment and everything, Eli would not have died, you know. Well, I don't know if Eli gonna die, honestly, in this. I really don't. I don't know. Um, but it sounds like Eli gonna get punished too, because he ain't disciplined his children when they was doing wicked stuff, which means that you just, went along with that, and that's messed up. So I feel like Eli ain't gonna escape punishment, but I feel like if he had disciplined his kids, that would have showed the Lord that, hey, that I'm for you and everything, that I'm disciplining my children because they were doing wicked stuff against you, and I'm not with that, you know, I'm not for that. And then maybe Eli would have been spared by the Lord. I feel like he would have been spared by the Lord, because he was disciplining his children who was doing wicked stuff in the Lord's sight. So I just feel bad for Eli, in all honesty, because if you know that your child, if you know that your children are doing wrong, why wouldn't you discipline them? Like, if I know that my children, like if I have children one day and everything, well, when I have children one day, and I know that they doing something wrong, especially if they doing something wrong towards the Lord, I'm gonna correct that. I'm gonna discipline that, cause I don't want no beef with the Lord. I don't want no problems with the Lord. You know. Same thing with my husband, or something. If I see that he doing something wrong or whatever, um, then I'll correct him on that. And I want the same thing done for me and everything. But right now, pretty much, like, when it come down to my family, that's pretty much what I do. If they do something wrong or whatever, in the Lord's sight, then I'll correct them. Um, but I do understand that they believe what they believe at the end of the day, and all depending on what it is I'm telling them, it don't matter. It don't matter what I say. They just not gonna believe me, and they not gonna practice that or whatever. And that's fine. I mean, it's not fine, but I mean, there ain't nothing I could do about it at that point. All I can do is just pray, and pray that they change and stuff. But yeah, I'm glad that Samuel got a chance to grow up and everything, and that he's the chosen person, from the Lord, in order to carry on the priesthood and stuff like that. I think that that's great. I love the fact that the Lord was speaking to Samuel, by calling his name, In all honesty, it reminds me of a few times in which the Lord called my name. Um, I cannot remember how long ago it was. This was after I had gave my life over to Christ and I had joined my granny's church. Can't remember how long ago it was, how long I had been a Christian, walking with the Lord and everything when he called my name. But he called my name, it was during Bible study at my granny church. He called my name, and he called my name like several times in a row, like several times back to back. I didn't count how many times he was calling my name, but it sounded like a male voice was clearly calling my name. It was audible and everything. I was clearly the only one that could hear it because I'm over here looking around the table and stuff, you know, and everybody was just continuing Bible study and everything like they ain't hearing nothing, you know. And I had wanted to stop the conversation and everything and see, hey, someone calling my name, y'all don't hear that, you know. Like in my head, and it's like I thought it was the Lord. I thought it was God. I know that it was God, but it's crazy. I was scared. Like I was scared of answering him, and saying yes, Lord, or something like that, in order to answer him, because I was in the middle of Bible study, and I didn't want to look crazy to them. I didn't want to look crazy to them, just talking to the Lord out loud like that. So I didn't say nothing. I was addressing him in my mind, but I wasn't saying it out loud. I wasn't being bold and saying it out loud. So eventually he did stop calling my name. But um but yeah, I when I think about that moment, I wish I had went on ahead and said yes, Lord, out loud. I wonder what he would have said to me. Then there was one more time that happened at my granny church. He only said my name once. He said my name once. I still said in my mind, yes, Lord, because I was serving, I was ushering, I was real focused on whatever I was doing. And he called my name one time. I said, yes, Lord, in my head, but I didn't say it out loud. And he didn't answer me either. Like when I said yes, Lord, in my head or whatever, I ain't getting no answer, no response or anything like that. So it's like when I think about those two times, I regret not addressing him, not answering him out loud, with my voice. Cause I don't know. I don't know if he was just letting me know of his presence. I don't know. I don't even know what I prayed and everything before that happened. You know, like I don't know if hearing his audible voice or whatever was an answer to a prayer or something that I was praying. I know that back then I used to always tell the Lord that, life would be a lot easier if I just heard your audible voice, and that I would listen to you and everything if I heard your audible voice. I know I used to say that. But yeah, I don't know why he was calling my name, but I'm glad he knows my name. That gives me comfort knowing that, you know, cause he know my name. That's good. He know who I am. That's wonderful. Truly, it is. Cause it gives me assurance that he ain't gonna say no, nothing like, get away from me. I never knew you or whatever, you know. So he know my name, so that's wonderful. Cause the Lord knows all of his sheep by name. He knows all of his children by name. And we know him when he calls. We know his voice. It does remind me of another time where basically I got into a car accident. Someone hit me. Someone hit my car. And the Lord clearly told me in an audible voice to call the police. I didn't listen. I didn't listen. And it was crazy too, because I was thinking to myself whether or not I should call the police or not. And I remember praying before the accident that, that I just really wanted to hear his voice. And, if he was to tell me to do anything or whatever, I would do it. And I don't like the fact that I didn't call the police that day. Ain't no telling, what situation I would be in right now if I had called the police. But I'm just thinking about times where, the Lord clearly communicated with me with his audible voice, and I fumbled the bag. I fumbled. I did. I did. It's like I regret it, but if the Lord was to ever bless me with being able to hear his voice, another time or something, I just pray that I respond in the right way. That I respond with my audible voice no matter what I'm going through, no matter what situation that I'm in. Um and that if he gives me a command, if he tells me to do something, I just pray that I'm able to do it. I just pray that I do it, because whether I'm fearful or understand or don't understand, just pray that I do whatever the Lord tell me to do, because I love him and everything. And I feel like it was such a blessing to be able to hear his voice. I feel like not a lot of people get a chance to hear his voice. And I feel like that the times that I did, I fumbled the bag, and I just you know, feel some kind of way about it. But just had to share them things and stuff, because Samuel got a chance to hear his voice, and he responded by saying, "Speak, your servant is listening." And in all honesty, when I heard the Lord's voice all them times, I did think about Samuel and how the Lord spoke to him, and he responded in the way that he did, you know? And I felt like I should have responded too, but I didn't. So, the moral of this chapter is, when the Lord speaks to you, you answer verbally, and you make sure that you do whatever he tells you to do, period. And that if you see anybody not showing love to the Lord, if you see anybody being disrespectful towards the Lord, doing wicked things in the Lord's sight or whatever, just living in sin, just doing sinful stuff, you need to address that. You need to correct that. We can't just turn a blind eye to sin and stuff. And of course, there is a way in which you're supposed to go about doing it. Don't do it all in a messed up, aggressive, whatever way. You're supposed to do it in a loving, caring way. Like, like do it the right way. But thank y'all so much for listening, though. I truly do appreciate it. I love you. Jesus loves you, and have a blessed day. Bye.